of the week again. It is time for Geek Speak, and today we are going to be talking about website no-nos. All the things that you experience or have accidentally done to a website without knowing better. We're going to be talking through things we've learned, things that we will impart to you to make sure you don't make the same mistakes. And of course, my name is Phelan. I work at Seymour Digital Media, where we focus on search engine marketing.
And I'm Greg with Original 72 Creative, and we're a full service website graphic design and digital marketing firm in Vancouver.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Yes, indeed. And so I think there's definitely, when we were kind of doing the notes for this, I know you had a bunch of notes of definitely some design practices that are just ones that people still make to this day, for better or for worse. And I think there are some that are very tactical. Because I saw it, like you had, automatic pop-ups, when you land on a website and they're like, hey, join our email list, like right away when you don't even know if you like the website just yet.
Exactly. Yeah. I did quickly sort of split out some design related stuff initially in the Trello board. So if you refresh, you'll probably see that. But if we start going through some of the items here, um, I mean, the first on the design aspect would be like a poor navigation. I mean,
Yeah.
every website needs to have a really good navigation. Otherwise, like, people are not going to be able to find their way through your site or to the content that you want them to find.
Yeah.
So, having poor navigation is probably one of the biggest no-nos, I would say.
Yeah, that's definitely there's definitely ones, also like color selection is another one what people often get wrong. And it's definitely one that you're yellow on white, which is like the biggest no you could possibly do, because it is the pairing of colors that people who have any sort of visual impairment like basically can't read what you have on there. So you always want like nice contrasting colors. um, so definitely pay attention to that. You also don't want to have too many colors because that just gets overly busy. So obviously it's a bit of a Goldilocks thing where you kind of want it to be like, something distinctive, but it's not like just overwhelming.
And I don't think people understand that even if their brand may use, like, say your brand has like four different colors that they
Yeah.
use, like a Microsoft logo or the Google, logo. They've got three, four colors in there, right? Like, not every color from your brand needs to absolutely be used in your website. Pick one or two of those primary colors for the site and maybe just have those other two as small accents on only things that you might want to really highlight somewhere because they'll stand out because it is a different color but it is still on brand, right? Like, use it that way. But in
Yeah.
general, using too many logos and not, or sorry, not logos, too many colors in general is not great. But if you if you are going to use a lot of colors, if you absolutely have a brand that is just kind of all over the place, maybe that's your thing. Maybe the site is kind of like, because there is sort of a way that you can have a site that is purposely, all over the place, purposely
Yeah.
super colorful, but you really have to do it correctly to pull it
Yeah.
off, right?
It's definitely, yeah. Anyone could technically do it. However, like it's one of those ones that you probably should just avoid it. Like they're rules of thumb for a reason, is because like it's just going to make your life easier, and your job is generally not to reinvent the wheel. Your job is generally to, you've got enough stuff going on, like trying to like make an insane color palette work is not something you might want to focus on.
I think the key for the color is to be consistent.
Yeah.
Try not to use too many in your brand, but if you do use more, try to be as consistent as possible in how and where you use them. And this sort of pulls into another design one, which is using too many fonts.
Yeah.
on your site, which also drives me crazy, just as crazy as too many colors.
Yeah.
Random fonts, the fonts are all over the place. Like you, for branding purposes, whether it's your website or any other marketing material, you want to stay on brand, which is like your defined fonts, your defined colors, and using them consistent in all of the places where you use it. Like all of the headings are this specific font, and all of
Yeah.
the main text is this specific font.
And also, you should also try and avoid serif fonts, so ones with little edges and stuff like that, because phones just it makes it too muddied, especially if it's like it's okay to use like your headings might have little like edges, but like your body text should be something not without because it's just going to be easier to read. Like Arial and Helvetica are just easier to read on a phone, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the reality of having a tiny screen. And the other thing
Mm-hmm.
I would say is you don't want to wind up like the American dollar bills, which have like famously have 20 font types on there. They have 20 different fonts on them, and they're just a design disaster. And they just can't get rid of it because of just layover. But yeah, it's one of those ones where everything is a different font on it. Uh,
So moving on from that, I have one in here which I can't stand as well as low quality images. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
if an image that you have for that you want to use on your site isn't of high quality enough to use, I would prefer it not to be used, or find or source an image that is high quality enough, especially with the browsers or the monitors people use these days. Like we're looking at websites in high resolution on massive screens, and it's really not nice when there's a low quality image on it. It just like really takes away from the site.
yeah, exactly. It's definitely one where you want to be like obviously you still want to be cautious about the weight of it because I think this was Pip. I can't find her in. I believe that she's in the group posting, but it's definitely you still want to watch out for the size of the image because that's super important. But again, like these days, it's easy for you to get a high quality image that's even like of real life. Like our phones are all decent enough quality. You should be able to get one. And even if it's like, hey, I wanted to see a picture of my whole team, super easy for you to get a picture that's still pretty high quality, and there's still enough compression tools out there that are free to use that can make it so it's you get the best of both worlds. So you
I
can
think the specific no-no for that, which she's implying to for sure, is that you obviously do want to optimize your images for the site. But a big no-no that I didn't have on my list, which she's reminding me of by that comment, is please don't take a picture from your phone or your camera and upload it directly to your website.
yeah
That's a big
obviously
no-no. That's for sure a big no-no that I actually didn't have on the list here.
yeah I'm not saying like just straight raw from your phone, just like place it without doing anything to it. Like obviously it's going to need a little bit of like editing that goes into it, but I'm just saying that like the quality of the images, it's like we don't have any excuse of like you need a fancy camera or anything like that. Like the phone quality is still good enough these
Yeah.
days that you can get one that will be high enough resolution.
Yeah, no, I wasn't implying that you were going on that, but it just her comment made me realize, yes, that's something that I see a lot of clients do is they just take pictures from their phone or camera and they like pull it off and upload it to the site.
Yeah
Which
there's
is like you do not want to do that.
that's definitely one of it's yeah I mean, and photos are just these days also don't, I mean, we've said it before as well, just like having generic photos as well. Don't just take random generic photos. Those aren't, I mean, they're a dime a dozen everywhere on the internet, and you want to take something that's unique to your business as well, so it's like, hey, it shows your personality, because like you don't want to look like some shady website where it's just it's all poorly laid out and you have like generic photos, right? Like you want to have some sort of personality that shows your business or what you are to make yourself stand out online.
Yeah. My suggestion on the no-no of using generic photos is because it's so easy to go to a stock photography site and find something that is along the lines of what you wanted to do. And if you and I have to say I do look for many stock photo shots for clients to suggest they use, or find one that I can use myself for a site. But as I do that, I typically try not to just find the image and use it. I might find an image and actually do something to it, like crop only a specific part of it so that it doesn't look as generic, or it's focusing in on only a specific part of that image, which makes it a little bit less like generic to the site. So if you do get, have generic photos or source from stock, try to do that to make them a little bit more unique to you and what you're trying to do on your website.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's yeah, unique imagery is it's important. I mean, you've heard us say it like a bunch of times, and so yeah, Pip's comment is don't do that. Dying inside when clients do that. So yeah, you could. I'm sure that would be also echoed by Rena as well for that. Of
Most likely.
yeah, um,
Moving on to designs, more design stuff. There's one that I hated when this was a big thing for a while, when people had music playing on their site, and it drove me nuts. Like as soon as you load the site and
yeah,
some music starts playing, and I'm also on the team of don't make videos play automatically either, and for two reasons. One is because unless it's a background image that you're using as part of the
yeah,
design that just has movement or video in the movement, that's fine. It doesn't have sound. But if a video has sound, like it's a welcome thing, I typically would suggest making it not an autoplay video. And for one, people get really annoyed when things like just start right away on them. And for two, it'll save you bandwidth. If it plays every time, the video is streaming every time. So
yeah.
it's going to eat away at your bandwidth on your hosting. So having it only play when people want it to play is going to save you a lot of that traffic.
Well, it also speeds up the load times, right? Because if it's having to load a video as well at the same time it's loading everything else, like that's just going to
Mhm.
kill the thing. Whereas if it's firing afterwards, then it's already loaded up the page. Then they've also like they want to watch the video. It just all around it improves the user experience, like just across the board. So it's definitely, and yeah, it's definitely of a bygone era, like the auto music play. Like the other one you had was the blinking text, which all just reminds me of like MySpace, where they like, hey, you can write the HTML to your page, and people kind of went a little crazy with it.
You know the quickest way to make automatic music or sound on a website go away?
Which one's that?
Leave the website.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Close. Well, I was gonna say close the tab, but I wasn't sure if that was gonna be the.
I'm not. Well, yeah, like close the tab, close the browser, leave the web. Like
Yeah,
however you do it, the easiest way to not have that playing anymore is to leave your site. So you don't want people leaving your site. It's
yeah,
easier than trying to find where you mute whatever it is you've got going on so that I can continue browsing in peace your website. So
yeah. Um,
another annoying thing, and this is something I don't see very often. I know it was like blinking text was. It's been in HTML forever. The blinking tag.
Yeah. Well,
um,
it's been around forever, but I think it went the way of MySpace. That was the last place I saw like people frequently using it because it was like, yeah, it's just of a bygone era. And I mean, also like I don't think people with epilepsy or stuff like that. I don't think they appreciate that much either to have blinking text. And it doesn't really have a use case. It's one of those ones where they programmed it in to the HTML, and they're just like, well, you could do it. We don't really. Um, I think the Blink HTML, the only time I've seen it really work well is Chrome still uses it for tabs. If it wants to like let you know something's happening in another tab, it'll like blink an icon, like it'll
Mm,
infill, take out, and it's the same HTML. That's the
right.
only time I've seen it where I was like, oh, that's actually like a pretty good use case for it, where it like lets you know that a thing's happening on a tab. You should probably go check on that.
But that's not even in the browser or on a website.
It
That's in the window itself of the browser, right?
it uses the same HTML protocol, was my understanding when I looked into it.
Right, because yeah, obviously you can manipulate in the HTML what shows in your title,
Yeah,
and in the browser title, or even your fav icon and stuff like that. So I guess yeah, you could in fact do blinking in there. I never really thought about it because I just don't want to ever do blinking.
yeah. It was it's like an absolute edge case, but it's like what other time are you like, hey, we should have blinking text here? There's not very many times where you're like, this is a good idea. People are going to appreciate this.
Yeah, if you're thinking of having something stand out, don't use blinking. Think of things like text can fade in or fade up or bounce, or like when you roll over it, or like little things
Yeah,
like that. But the blinking is just annoying because it's basically on off, like
yeah.
constantly, and it's just really annoying.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of bygone era ones, there was one that you told me about that I hadn't even thought about forever, which is forcibly resizing windows, which is
Hmm.
of like that's just of an era where you know when web development, web design was just very still early days, and they hadn't honed everything.
Yeah, I remember putting that one on the list and thinking back to the day that I used to do that because yes, I used to do that in really early days in the time when every browser acted differently.
Yeah,
It was easier to say I want the user's browser to be this size because this is how I want them to see the site and do that. But yeah, that's a huge no these days. I
yeah.
don't remember ever when that was used recently. I've never seen a site in a long time or any application, web application, actually do that. But
I think it went.
they probably do, but it's typically not the main site. It's like opening up a page to a specific size
Yeah,
because what they're showing you in that new window is something specific, and they just are deciding to pop it up smaller because it doesn't need to be full screen or something.
yeah, or it's some page that they had forgotten about that like to has some useful like it's some enterprise level like website, and it's like just one of the pages that had some old content they hadn't bothered to like resize it in the new system. It's just kind of a holdover of, and like I've seen that a couple times where it's like old content. I think it just kind of went away with mobile responsiveness, where they kind of wrote in protocols that it's like, yeah, we should make this kind of flexible because all the phones are all different sizes. So it was just like
Hmm.
they just kind of built it in, and I think that kind of went the way out the way there. It's
Yeah.
definitely yeah, the use case for it is just not there that it used to be. Um, I'd say I also kind of like things that kind of that came up with when we were talking about this was like this is where accessibility also comes in. We've kind of like a lot of this stuff is all kind of like kind of circled around with the accessibility of it, like whether it's the navigation, the font color, the colors, the fonts, like all this stuff improves your website by making it more accessible to people, and
Hmm.
also like making it just easier to navigate, people easier for screen readers to go over. It turns out to actually kind of make your website a lot easier to go on, which is kind of funny that a lot of these best practices, if you just follow kind of accessibility guidelines, you wind up
Hmm.
making a pretty user friendly website.
Yeah, for sure. Along the lines of the browser resize, there's another one that I didn't necessarily have on my list here, but I just thought of was maybe it's just a pet peeve of mine. Maybe I should do a new topic, Greg's pet peeves,
Yeah,
instead
there
of
you go.
what
Yeah.
Craig knows. But something I really hate to see is not super common, but I still see it sometimes is when people style the scroll bar. For
Mm.
some reason, I don't like when people style the browser scroll bar to to match the theme of their website or something. To
Yeah.
me, the scroll bar is part of the interface of the browser, and it shouldn't be made to be stylized like your website to make it feel like it's part of your website, because I feel it kind of takes away from the fact that that is there then for actual scrolling purposes in the window, as opposed to like a feature, like you built in some feature in your website to like scroll and like you
Yeah.
didn't build that, just it's part of the interface, just leave it
Yeah,
alone.
exactly. Well, now that you said that, now it's come back to me is doing that to the mouse icon.
Yes.
Whatever was overriding it. So if like you went onto the like it would be like an icon or something, and like you kind of made it like because it just reminded me when you said like make it part of the website. I remember that used to be like I mean that was very early aughts of website design, but yeah, that was one of those ones where people found out they could do it, and man, did they burned that into the ground.
I actually just came across a site like a couple of days ago that I was super annoyed with because over certain elements in their website, they would change the cursor to this like big wheel looking thing with arrows. And I was like, what are they trying to tell me with this change? Like, can I click this? Can like I had no idea what they were trying to do, and I just found it super annoying. So
Yeah.
and this place was like a website digital marketing place and SEO place that I found. And I'm like,
Wait.
yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely one where it's just like that is you're just trying to be like you're overthinking the solution. It's just like don't you have much bigger things you should be thinking about than that. Um, yeah, it's definitely. Um, I think we're also gonna put in. I'll put in the comments in the group as well that there's one website that I wanted to point out which was built by I forget the guy's name, but it's called like the worst website on the internet, and basically he took every annoying JavaScript feature and HTML feature and put it onto one website. And I mean, it's fun to click around. It's definitely you like, yeah, there's some very annoying features that are just like, oh, I'm so glad people don't use that anymore. Of just like things saving to your clipboard without you knowing. Um, Apparently that's a feature in there, which I don't know how they got away with that, but you know, like, and there's a couple of like just weird ones. It's a fun website, and I'll put it into the chat as well after we're done. But yeah, it's yeah.
So you already touched on this at the very beginning, but the last part of design here was that automatic pop-ups right
Oh
away
yeah,
when you get to your site. You know, unless it's um, the message at the bottom about cookie tracking or something, which isn't really a pop-up. It's just a message bar typically at the bottom of sites. Like that's fine, but if you have your page load and there's an immediate pop-up to like this is the deal of the day or sign up for our mailing
yeah,
list,
yeah.
you know, don't do that.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. It's always like when I was working at Shopify, all the like the sites that were just the most generic. They are just like we're just listening to some YouTube of like you can make $10,000 a day by doing drop shipping, and like put together a website, and that was definitely a tell of like instant load and just like get 10% off first purchase. Give us your email, and then it like shows up immediately first 5 seconds, and it was definitely just not
Boy,
a very well thought out.
where did the time go? It's like 11:25 already, and I feel like we're only halfway through all of the things I put on the list here.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff was well, we were covering most of the fun ones of just like design choices that are just wrong.
Yeah, that was pretty much the end of what I thought was the design related stuff. But as I look through the rest of my list of things I mentioned, a lot of them are still design, like, splash pages or intro pages were huge for a long time. And this was maybe at the time when Flash was really big. Flash was
Oh yeah,
huge for a long time. People would have these Flash intros where you load the site and it's just like this animation, and then the logo shows up, and then it's like enter the site. I'm like, I waited 10 seconds for for that.
Yeah.
just to now click again to go to the site. And whenever a client asks me for one of those, I just would like, eyes roll back in my head and be like, "Ah, how do I how do I convince them not to do this stupid thing?"
Yeah. That's that, and I think that one kind of that also went away in the mobile era, right? Because there was the big fight between Adobe and Apple about licensing for Flash,
Hmm.
and Apple just said no, we're not going to do it because
Yeah.
and so that basically just killed the whole like everyone using Flash on websites because they're like, well, I got to use the iPhone and that thing's
Well, Flash was also super heavy
yeah
to load and also horrible for SEO. So when SEO started to really pick up, um, obviously the main things for SEO is like getting your site found and having your page load quickly. So
yeah
Flash's days were numbered definitely at that point because it's heavy files and not good for indexing.
yeah. Well, and also more phones as well, right? They just couldn't load, like just weren't suited to running these, and so it was just like yeah, it definitely went away there. I think one other one that was a little bit newer that I definitely we should still touch on that is still a big no-no for websites is over reliance on AI and Chat GPT for building your website and writing all the content. People are still doing that, and
People are
it
just
is
starting to do that.
oh
So hopefully we can stop them before they start, maybe.
yeah. It's definitely well the first round of SEOs doing it. They like did a pure SEO build, and then like they just did a pure AI build and like just as a test, right? Because most of them are like, this isn't gonna last, but like let's see if it would. And sure enough, yeah, that was it fell apart. And so definitely do not do that. That's definitely one where you want to that again, like we talked about with the photos, the human touch, the human element of like showing your business personality is going to be super important. And use it as a tool, but it's not going to do everything for you. It's not a magic box.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I'm on board with that. I ever since that AI content was a thing, I was skeptical on whether or not the content would be good enough for your site. And the suggestion would be to potentially use it as getting ideas or loose
Yeah.
content for what you want as as a starter, and then modifying and making it your own so that it's not that AI generated stuff that they can detect.
And also doing the research because it's really bad at like
Yeah,
stuff that
obviously mistakes and
yeah.
infactual information for sure. I'm just going to go through some of these items quickly here. We're running
Oh
out
yeah,
of
yeah.
time, but they're not massive things. More like just don't do them. No contact information on a website.
Yeah.
Please always have contact information. This is a big one that I still see today with clients. Please don't use your personal email address. Like you have a website, you with that website you have domain email. Please
Yeah.
use info or hello at your domain or your name at your domain. Don't use you at Gmail. That
Yeah.
drives me nuts. Obviously, check spelling and grammar all over your site. There's no worse thing than people coming to your site and getting an impression that you're just lazy and not detail oriented because you've got spelling mistakes and bad grammar everywhere. I mean, with all of the tools out there like Grammarly, to like not going to be perfect, but probably going to catch most of the things. And the only mistakes that it might make is like this the wrong spelling of a word because of context potentially. But make sure you go through that stuff. Broken links are big. Like if you change a lot of stuff on your site or delete pages, make sure you don't have broken links and things.
Yeah. Well, and you should do that anyway for SEO, right? Like you should be. Google really hates a broken link. They want the whole internet to know how it connects, and if you have a broken link in there, it's just that's like any website we've ever had to fix anything on. That's top. Whatever's a broken link, giving us a 500, 400, fix that right away.
So it looks like we got a comment on the Gmail address thing, and so I just wanted to clarify, like it's not email. Email is email, but from a professional standpoint, it's just a much more professional look to use your domain email with your business as opposed to like your business name at gmail.com. So that's the reason why.
Yeah. All right. And with that, I think we got to bring it to a close. And it's just for us to say this was a fun chat. I mean, we had a good laugh when we were setting all this up of remembering. And it leaves us to say who's on for next week.
Oh, good question. Usually I try to prepare for that because I know Pip would always ask me and throw me under the
Okay.
bus.
Well, we will let you guys know in the chat. I have to go for now. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.